Okay, it's recording now. Okay, my question is, how do you balance ministry and family and good, appropriate self-care?
Balance is a very hard thing to do. I think you need to know yourself so you know what energizes you. So some elements of ministry can be energizing and fun. So if you make sure you include those bits as often as you can. So I guess one example for me would be when I've been in core settings or youth and kids settings, things that I love doing is planning camps and events or doing little special things that go with it. So that doesn't even make sense as a sentence because I'm going in a totally different direction now. But then things I don't like doing are talking to people. No. Like being around people I find really draining. So on a Sunday, for example, like that's a pretty full-on day if you're in ministry. So after Sunday church stuff, whatever's over, even if that includes like a morning tea or a lunch or whatever, then once I get home, I can't do more ministry that day. Like I just have to, okay, no, this is downtime, this is me time, whatever. There was one call that we were at that some people wanted to put business meetings on Sunday, like leadership meetings on Sunday. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. So my choice was to say no, because I didn't want Sunday to become about business. For me, Sunday's still a work day, but I didn't want it to become about what everyone else was doing or wanting from me. So trying to keep that as a balance for me. There's a bit of a tension about when you take your day off. So some people say Monday's a good day to have off, and I actually say it's not. Mm-hmm. So because for me being an introvert, I'm dead by Sunday. So I don't want to spend my Monday still recovering. So I'd rather use Monday as a do the extra jobs kind of day. So Monday would often involve things like doing the banking or the admin or those kind of things, but things that I can do and achieve that get them out of the way. Another friend said to me, it's also a good reminder that everyone else in your church pretty much has to rock up and go to church on Monday morning. So if you make Sunday so tricky or busy that it's too exhausting to get up and go to church, go to school or work the next day, that's a sign that, you know, it's a bit tricky. So I don't recommend Monday as a day off, but that's from my experience. It is important to include things that are just for you in your world. When you have a family, everything can't be about family. So all your time off or time to yourself can't be about family. You need to find something that you enjoy for yourself. Whether that's something like, for me, I don't enjoy exercise, but I do it because I think it's important. But that's just me. That's not with anyone else. I enjoy crafty things and that kind of stuff. So if I can find ways to do that, it's good to build that in. But that's one of the areas where I was trying to say, like, I can incorporate that into ministry as well, because I like being creative and crafty and doing stuff, or even baking some cakes or cookies or something. Then that can be part of my ministry as well. Mm-hmm. So, you know, for me, at one of our core, everyone would bring morning tea on Sunday, and it would be really nice food. So actually preparing food was actually a fun part of ministry, but I also got personal enjoyment out of doing that as well. It also meant that I didn't eat a whole cake by myself at home, because I could make a cake and share it with lots of other people. So yeah, for me, I think there's that tension between the jobs you have to do and the jobs that bring you joy. So trying to make sure you get both of that in your world, because you're always going to have some sucky things that you do that you don't enjoy, but someone else actually might enjoy them. This is a really funny quote that I heard from someone, and it's from a doctor, but it says, every job has its own rectal exam. So there's always going to be something that you don't enjoy having to do. So that was just a funny quote. There you go. That's going to be on the arc.
It's on the internet, never to be forgotten.
Yeah, so I guess balancing personal stuff, if you're married or in a serious relationship, like that's also important. And then if you have children, that's important. Extended family, I really suck at, but that's also important to, like even, the family that's not here. And friendships, investing into those as well. So yeah, it is hard to do, definitely, ministry, family, personal stuff. And sometimes it means that someone else has to give and take a bit. So for me to go to the gym early in the morning, that means I don't help get the kids ready for school. But I'm lucky that Nigel's happy to do that. But then where do I give him space to do his exercise time and stuff like that? So yeah, give and take. And the seasons of life are different too, depending on the ages of your kids. There's different demands. So you just kind of go with the flow of what season you're in, not wishing it to go away and be ready for the next one when something will be easier, because something might be easier but something else will be harder. So yeah, it kind of ebbs and flows a bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Cindy?
From experience, what is your number one tip for dealing with conflict?
I hate conflict. Doesn't everybody hate conflict? Years ago, I went to a conflict resolution training experience. I think it was for a couple of days. And the big thing in that is that there's this picture. I should keep that book on my shelf. It's called Everyone Can Win. So it's a picture of two people fighting over an orange. And so the natural solution is to say, let's chop it in half. But actually the issue was that one person wanted to have a drink of orange juice and the other person wanted to make like an orange cake that needed the peel. So cutting in half didn't actually satisfy both people. Like you have to actually figure out what the issue really is. So that's a really simple illustration. But a lot of conflict is misunderstanding, or we haven't actually taken the time to figure out what's your need, what's my need, what are we not understanding here. And I definitely think from a lot of conflict I've experienced, it has come from misunderstandings. So we would be like, I had an experience where for some reason one person in our core, the army blocked their emails getting to me on our email system. But like, who knows what happened there, right? So she was sending me stuff and I was never getting her emails. So she thought I was ignoring her. But it's like, I'm not receiving any of your emails. So it was actually, she thinks I'm ignoring her, that creates attention. But actually then we're like, I didn't even get those emails. So when you can figure out actually taking a step back, which is really hard to do because I find it's easy to take things personally. Like if something's not working out, it's like, oh, they don't like me. But it's actually something in the situation just isn't working out well. If you need to talk to someone about something that you've had a conflict with, I think it's really good to go to a neutral location. So not to be sort of at the church or at one of your houses or whatever, to be somewhere that's kind of, yeah, like a no man's land kind of thing. Because that helps that there not be a power thing in that discussion that you might have. I guess the other thing is conflict is inevitable. It's always going to come up. Whether it's someone didn't like what uniform you wore that day, or that you didn't pick their favourite song that week, or sometimes it's so silly and so petty. And the only other thing I would say, particularly about conflict, is if someone's telling me that someone else said that someone else said, I'm not going to enter into that. I'm like, if you tell me that she's got a problem, then it's like, well, she needs to come and talk to me about that problem. Like, because otherwise you just get caught in too much of a labyrinth that you don't even really end up knowing what the issue is. So, yeah, making sure that it's direct discussion rather than indirect or third party stuff. Like we had one call we had an admin person who worked with us, and she was full-time. She did other kind of stuff, not just admin, but people would often talk to her to think, oh, well, you can tell the court officer this. And we had to train her to say, like, if you want them to know, you need to tell them, because that's not my job. So being careful of the people that people will try to use to get to you or to sort of air their grievances without being brave enough to do it direct. But having said that, I would, if I can avoid conflict, I would choose to avoid it if I possibly can. But I know that that doesn't create a healthy culture. So things do have to be confronted. But yeah, I don't know many people that enjoy having to deal with conflict.
Okay, the last question. How would you describe your leadership style?
I don't really know what theories or things you talked about in terms of styles of leadership. I have a rather collaborative leadership style, which I think I just discovered as you do stuff. Like, part of it's observing other people and how they lead and what they do, and then you're like, oh, I like that, or oh, I'd never want to do that. So sometimes it's that what you learn from other people or observe in things. I like to include people in discussion before I make decisions, so that's where I'd sort of say I'm collaborative in that way. Like, I want people to have a voice if they can, but knowing too that ultimately if I have to make a decision about something, it's my decision. Like, I can't sort of say, oh, well, they all said this or whatever. Yeah, I think I really discovered that more so in one setting. There was people who wanted us to be like command and control kind of leaders. Like, no, you're the boss, you make the decision. And I'm like, but you're the ones who are going to outlive us. Like, you need to be part of that. Like, we don't want to just make a decision without thinking things through. Like, I'm a big questioner too, so I want to ask lots of questions before I make a decision. So I think that highlighted to me that my style of thinking things through a bit longer and wanting to include more voices was hard to manage in that particular situation, because they were wanting someone to just sort of come in and say bang, 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 bang. So that can be hard when what you feel your style is doesn't seem to gel with where you are. But given that everyone has some capability to influence others and have leadership in some capacity, then we all need to work out how to work with each other. And I guess that was how to figure out, well, do I just conform to what that expectation is in terms of leadership style, or do I maintain the way that is true to me in how I lead? And I chose not to conform in that particular scenario. But it's not easy. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Sorry, I found that a bit of a hard question, so that's why I just wanted to... Right.
So a little bit of technical difficulties there. But we do have one more question. We've got time for one more.
Yeah.
Are you going to fix our technical difficulties, or are you just going to hold it?
I'm just going to hold it.
Alright. So how do you practice servant leadership without having the nature of servanthood abused?
Yeah, I think I like to take on the way of thinking of saying, I won't expect someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself. So whether that is cleaning the toilets or, you know, tidying up the chairs, setting stuff up, whatever it is, I don't want to think I'm above anything. And probably my nature is less in that way than my husband's. Like, he's a very strong servant person and gift of helps and those kind of things. So he will just do that more naturally. I have to tell myself to do it, so I have to remind myself to be, I don't know, a bit more servant-like. It probably is true that people can abuse that approach and take advantage of you, but I would hope I try to assume the best about people, that they're not going to take advantage of that. Because there's definitely humility in servant leadership, and yeah, I think it's just about being willing to do whatever it takes in the scenario, and not to think that you're above other people or above doing menial kind of tasks. Yeah, I don't know if I know much about how to stop the abuse kind of side in that kind of thing. Is that all right? Is there more that I need to say?
I think that's it. I think like just when you were talking, for me it was more having those healthy boundaries in that the abuse can't occur as well. So, that's good. Thanks for taking the time with us today. And I'm sure that not just us, but the others will learn quite a bit from your knowledge.
I'll have to watch everyone else's too and learn from them.